Hey everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I've been playing with my Jesse James Magical Mystery Bead Box called Pirate Getaway. This has been challenging for me. I'm not used to using beads like this. I'm more simple with the things I do. So it's been challenging trying to figure out what to make, but I think I have an idea of a necklace that I want to make. I've got these beads are from the Caribbean Escape strand, and so are these, except for these little tiny rondelles were from the Tortuga strand, I think is how you say it. I think they're like 3x4mm rondelles. And then this is going to be, I'm going to make a focal with this, and these were also from the Caribbean mix, except for the little tiny rondelles. And those couple little daisy spacers were from the strand too. And I've got a big long head pin in there. I don't know where in the world I got such a long head pin. Probably from lima beads. I get a lot of findings from lima beads. Head pins, eye pins, jump rings, stuff like that. I've got a head pin, an eye pin in there. These two beads are from the Siren Song of Rachel Wall mix. And these two little beads in cages were from the Night at Port Royal component mix. And I've got some chain from my stash and some jump rings and a lobster clasp, a toggle clasp. I know I usually use a lobster clasp on necklaces so I can use an extender chain, but I couldn't really find any lobster clasps that match the chain I have. I think that's why I don't do much with gold, because I have a hard time finding golds that match. Like my chain doesn't match my lobsters, and my lobsters don't match my extender chain. And so I think that's why I don't do a whole lot with gold. But these don't exactly match, but I guess they'll do. And I've got some 22 gauge wire here in gold. It's 22 gauge German style, just like I always use in the silver, but it's gold and it's beaded on, just like what I use in the silver. For tools, I have my chain nose pliers, both pairs of my bent chain nose pliers. These I got from BB Craft years ago, and these I got from these are Xuron. I've got my cutters and my tweezer pliers. They're both Xuron. I've got my round nose pliers that I got from BB Craft years ago. I've got my crimpers. These are beaded on. And I have my New Orleans shot glass to put my little pieces of wire in when I cut them off. I think that's everything, so I'll get some of this out of the way and I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to start by making my focal here. I'm going to take my head pin, my big long head pin, and I'm going to put one of these tiny little rondelles on it, and one of these daisy spacers, and one of these pretty flat beads. And they kind of a tiny little hole, so it takes a minute. There we go. And then another daisy spacer, and another little tiny rondelle. So now I'm going to take my pliers, and I'm going to go to the very tip of my plier, because I don't want a really long neck. And I'm going to bend my pin over at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to take my round nose pliers, put them in the crook of the bend there. Bend the wire back until it hits the bead. Round nose pliers are facing me. Rotate the pliers until they're facing the table. Hold really tight. Pull this part of the head pin back up and under here until it hits the bottom of the pliers. Cock it back a little to center your loop over the bead. I'll take both pairs of my bent chain nose pliers, I hold on to my loop. I'm going to take my other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start my wrap. Try to get that first wrap really good and tight. It is better if you turn these at half a turn at a time. I know a lot of times I turn them all at once, but I can't really do that with this one. This head pin anyway, it's pretty thick. But even if you're just doing it with wire and it's not thick, it's really better to do it at a half a turn at a time. You can get better wraps that way. That's one of those do as I say, not as I do things. Don't do what you see me do. Do what I say for you to do. Okay, cut off the extra. Now I'm going to take my crimping pliers and very carefully tuck in this little burr of wire that I left because I don't want to crack my little rondelle on top of there. Okay. Now I'm going to take my eye pin and I'm going to put this rondelle on here. And I'm just going to make a simple loop on it. I thought I was zoomed in more than that. I don't know what happened. Okay. See, I want to make this way, I think. So I'm going to just come up a little bit above the bead so I don't crack my bead. And bend the pin over at a 90-degree angle. Take my cutters and cut off, leaving about 1/4 of an inch of wire or pin. Hold this part so it doesn't go flying and hit the cat in the head. She wouldn't like that. And take my round nose pliers. Try to keep hold of everything. And go to the end of the wire here. Make sure there's nothing sticking out on this side. And then just roll back a loop. And now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and go to this side of the eye pin. Open it up and thread on this that I made. And then close it back up. And, well, I can't see my beading. Oh, there it is. That's gonna be my little focal. And the reason I made the eye pin facing that way is because I'm gonna connect each side of my beaded chain that I'm gonna make each side on it, and I think that'll be the way I want it to hang. I guess we'll see when I get there. Okay, now I'm going to take these beads and I'm going to do some wrap loops. So I'm going to take one of my pieces of chain and go down probably about an inch and a half or so. Bend my wire over the top of the pliers at a 90-degree angle. Take my round nose pliers, put them in the crook of the bend, round nose pliers facing me. Bend this wire back till it hits the tool, can't go any further. Rotate the round nose pliers till they're facing the table. Hold really tight. Push this back, shorter piece of wire back until it hits the bottom of the pliers. Cock it back a little so that the wire is centered over the so that the loop is centered over the wire. That usually puts your loop standing almost straight up. Now I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers, and I'm going to hold my loop. Pull this down a little. I'll hold my loop really tight so it doesn't get out of shape. I always do this part with my fingers. I'm going to just take this and wrap it around about 3 times. Now I'm going to take my cutters, cut off the extra. I'm going to take one of my beads. I'm going to put one of these little tiny rondelles on the side of each one of them, just to give it a little extra bling. I'll do this black one here. I take my pliers, go to the very tip of the pliers. Well, go to the very tip because I don't want a long neck, because the longer neck I have, the more wraps I'll have to make to fill up that space. And I want the same amount of wraps that I have on this side, and I have found if I go to the tip, I usually have about the same amount of wraps. So I want to bend it over the tool at a 90-degree angle. Take my round nose pliers, put them in the crook of the bend. Round nose pliers facing me. Bend this wire back until it hits the bead. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Hold on really tight. Take this part, bring it back and under there till it hits the bottom of the pliers. Cock it back some so that it's centered over the top of the bead. The loop is centered over the top of the bead. Take my bent chain nose pliers, hold on to my loop, hold on really tight. Take my other bent chain nose pliers and start wrapping. Try to get the first wrap really good and tight up against the loop. And I don't know that I did. It does not appear to be working out the way I want it to. That's another thing, when you go around all at once like that, instead of making half turns, your wire will break off. That's another reason why you should not do like I do and make half turns instead of turning it all at once. Now I'm going to take my cutters, cut off my extra wire, take my crimping pliers and go in here and really carefully tuck in this burr because I don't want to break my little rondelle. They're very fragile and they will break easily. Okay, so I got that one done. Now I'm going to do another one. I'm going to take my pliers, go down about an inch, inch and a half, bend the wire over the top of the tool at a 90-degree angle. Take my round nose pliers, put them in the crook of the bend, round nose pliers facing me. Take this wire and bend it back until it hits the tool. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Take the shorter piece of wire and push it back until it hits the bottom of the tool. Can't go any further. Cock it back a little until the loop is centered over the wire. Take my bent chain nose pliers, hold on to my loop, wrap this around about 3 times. Take my cutters, cut off my extra wire, put on one of my little tiny rondelles, one of these flat beads, another little tiny rondelle, take my pliers, go to the very tip, bend at a 90-degree angle, take my round nose pliers, put them in the crook of the bend, round nose pliers facing me, take your wire, bend it back till it hits the bead, rotate the pliers till they're facing the table, hold on really tight, take this wire and bend it back until it's hitting the bottom of the tool, cock it back until the loop is centered over the bead. Take my bent chain nose pliers, my other pair of bent chain nose pliers, start wrapping. Cut off the extra wire. Come in with my crimper, very gently crimping out my little burrs. Okay, now the reason I didn't connect these to each other like I do a lot of times when I do this is because I don't know in what configuration I want these beads to lay yet. So I'm just going to make them, you know, all individually and then connect them together with my jump rings. So I'm going to make all the rest of these off camera, just doing this same thing. I'm going to put a little tiny rondelle on each end and just do wrap loops on each side, and then I'll be back. Okay, I got all my little links made here, and now I got to figure out how I want to lay them out. I got my focal here. It's hard to see all these. I think maybe I want to put this one here. And then maybe this one. And then maybe my little caged beads here. And then one of these guys. And then maybe this guy. Y'all can't see all that because it's just too much of it. Or do I want to put this here? I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe I like that better. I think I'll do that. Okay, I've got my jump rings here. I'm going to connect it with jump rings. And you may notice through the magic of television that my jump rings have changed size from what they were. I had some 6mm jump rings out, and then I decided I wanted to use a big 8mm jump ring here because I want a little bit more distance between them. And then I don't want a whole lot of distance between these, so I'm going to use 4mm. So I'm going to take my 8mm jump ring and zoom back in a little bit now. And let's see, I'm gonna open him up, put on one side of my necklace and my focal, and the other side. Close him up. And take a 4mm jump ring. Y'all know these little guys give me trouble. Hook these two together. Well, and then hook these two together. And hook these two together. And hook these two together. Okay, that's what I've got so far. Now I'm going to hook the rest of this side together and I'll be back. Okay, I've got all my little links hooked together here, and now I'm going to add some chain on. I've got this chain here. It was just some chain from my stash. I've got about two different, two 4-inch, about 4-inch lengths of chain. And I'm just going to open the link. I need to get down here where y'all can see me. I'm just going to open the link on the end of the chain and thread it onto my side of my bracelet there. And I'm going to take the other piece and do the same thing. And then I'm just going to take this in and hook my clasp on. Had these little clasps forever. I think they're supposed to look like a banana leaf or something. I think that's what it was called when I got them years ago. Okay, there, I'm all done. Let me get it put together and I'll be back. Okay, there it is, all put together. I'll try to get a better picture and put it at the end of the video. So that's my first necklace that I've made out of my Jesse James Bead Magical Mystery Box. Like I said, these are different kinds of beads that I'm used to using, so it's a little challenging, but that's good. It's always good to stray outside of your comfort zone. If I had never done that, I would never have made my first YouTube video. So, as usual, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook and Instagram and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope you all have a great day. Take care.